FranCanada Podcast, where we talk all things franchising in Canada with some rock star guests and some rock star content. And today's guest is certainly second to none with that. Want to introduce my good friend, a company that we do a lot of work with ourselves, is Kirk Allen, with the co-founder and COO of Reshift Media. What's going on, Kirk?
Hey, Steve. Nice. Thanks for having me, and great job on the podcast. And yeah, we've known each other for 12 years.
Yeah, it's gonna be that
11 years, 10 years, a long time.
A long time. No, it's great. Listen, it's a pleasure, and you're the type of guy that every time you talk, you always learn something, right? And
franchising is what we do. We both do franchising, and we've learned a lot from each other over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess so. Let's jump into it, Kirk. I mean, I'm going to ask you some questions, as you know, that I already know the answer. But for our viewers and for people that are watching, who's Kirk and what's Reshift Media?
So, Kirk Allen, thank you for that introduction. I'm one of the co-founders of Reshift Media. There's two of us, Steve Bures and myself. We founded this business 12 years ago, and that was kind of in the days where newspaper advertising was in decline, and the budgets were being shifted to digital. So that's why we opened this agency. And we, very quickly learned that franchising is a place that we wanted to invest a lot of time and energy in. And everything we do is digital. So we digital marketing, whether it's build websites, build apps, do social media, organic paid, do Google ads or Google SEO, anything digital when it comes to marketing is what we specialize in.
Nice. You certainly do. And, I think that when you look at it with and jumping ahead, why franchising? What chose you to, why jumping into that? Because just to be clear for the viewers too, you do a lot of marketing and through for franchisors, but also franchisees. So what brought you that route, man?
Well, and just to maybe build on that, so both on the B2C and B2B side. So we do Fran Dev, tons of that. That's what we do a ton with you, but also B2C to get people into people's stores or fill in a form or make a phone call to a service-based business. But how we got into franchising, it's a great question. When we opened the business, a good friend of mine who we have been friends for, I think it's 30 plus, maybe 40 years, is David Drucker from the UPS store. And I think we're in our 6th month of business. And David said, at the time, he was very involved in the CFA. Today's the chair. And he says, Kirk, you should come to the CFA convention. I think it'd be great for you. So we went to a convention in Montreal, and we never looked back ever after that. Like it took time to build business, but it was the Canadian Franchise Association that really piqued our interest, and we learned a ton. The education that you get out of the franchise association is fantastic. The networking, and that's where we met. So that's how we actually got into franchise. And then we quickly realized in franchising, there are some gaps. So that whole relationship between the franchisor and franchisee, the franchisees need help at the local level. For a franchisor, it's often difficult to make that happen at the local level. So over the last 10 years, we've been building systems to help support both the franchisor and franchisee.
Yeah, no, you've done a great job. So, and let's be clear, like you're not like we talked about the Canadian Franchise Association, but you work in not just Canada, you work in multiple countries, correct?
Yeah, great point. So we have probably about 200 customers in 20 countries around the world, primarily North America, though. That's our primary focus. But all of the other business, quite honestly, Steve, whether it's New Zealand or Australia or the UK, they all come to us organically. They find us through our blog, and they reach out and say, hey, we need your help. So that's how our business is growing internationally. And in fact, we won the best franchise marketing firm last February down at the IFA for the Global Franchise Awards. And we're up for as finalists again for this year. We just found out this week that we're a finalist. We don't know if we've won, but that is because of our international activity. So it's not just Canada, not just North America, but worldwide.
Amazing, man. Well, good on you. I think it forms a validity of the community in franchising. And I know David Drucker quite well, myself. And, getting into I remember my first Canadian Franchise Association convention. Steve Burrows, your partner, was my ambassador.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, he's like, yeah, if you need anything, so nah, bye, man, I'm good. But he was wonderful. We've always been tight since, and no one has a beard like Steve. He's the
Well, yours, if you let yours grow a little bit like Steve, it wouldn't be.
yeah. My wife doesn't like. Did you see Craig? Craig bucked his, eh?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, he had a great big sucker. And
Yeah.
it was the day after the day the Dutchies came back. He didn't want any Dutchie dust in his beard, eh? But well, that's I guess so. So talking about the services that you provide, let's nail that down a little bit. So what are the services? A little bit more in detail.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we've kind of got, I guess, 4 areas. So we have a social media team, and we do everything from, being the voice behind the brand, so organic posting to, local Facebook pages and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and LinkedIn. So that's on the organic side. And of course, on social media, we also do advertising. So, running ads for franchise systems, at the local level, nationally as well. So that's on the social media side. So basically organic and paid. On the search side, similar. So SEO, search engine optimization, optimizing websites so people find your business or find the local locations. And then on the paid side, Google AdWords. So running ads when people type in, buy the best burger franchise, or buy a pizza franchise, or own my own business, or own a service-based business, or work from home. So we will run ads for that. That's on the B2B, and the B2C would be need my windows cleaned, or the best, where to ship my next parcel, or it could be virtual mailboxes. So on the B2C side, we run Google AdWords, and on the B2B side, the third area is we have a full creative team. So we do everything from branding. We obviously create logos, and websites is a big part of what we design. So we're big believers in designing custom websites, and then build them. So that's our fourth area. We have a full in-house development team where we build websites, we build apps, and we build 2 pieces of technology specifically for the franchise world that enable localized advertising. That the beauty is the actual franchisee can pay for it using their own credit card in our system.
Right.
Yeah, and so the franchisor is not having to pay for the ads and trying to get reimbursed. And the same thing on the organic side. And then the latest piece we've added to our offering, and I don't think, Steve, you and I have even talked about this, is influencer marketing. But it's not the Kardashians. We do hyper-local influencer marketing for franchise systems. So we will go and find customers for a local location who talk about that location on their own social media. We reach out to them and engage them to be influencers for that local location.
Love it.
And so it's hyper local. So we're not going after the big rock stars or superstars or movie stars. We're going after the brand ambassadors who actually either frequent that location or use their services. And because they're a real customer, you get real good, genuine content. So that's our latest thing is influencer marketing.
Well, and that's great. And let's talk about that for a minute, because I know you see this. We certainly do. Is when you have the franchisor and the franchisee marketing relationship, and when a disclosure document or a franchise agreement says, okay, you need to spend 3% of your sales on marketing, but that's where it's left, rather than say, here is the plan. Because what happens is when a franchisee opens, for the most part, they're probably not marketing experts. They're looking for that guidance. So the brand application you guys have set up, it works out so well for both sides, because the content is there, it's approved from corporate, it rolls out, and then it's being done. Because there's a lot of systems out there, especially the younger and emerging ones, that can leave the franchisees on their own to do that. And so it's such a good service, because it really, how can someone be in default for not marketing when they don't know what they're supposed to do? There's not a clear.
You want them running the business. You want them running the business, taking care of the customers. And you're right. Marketing is probably, they're not experts in marketing. It's rare. And what happens often, Steve, and you've seen this, is they go and hire someone, some guy in his garage basement or whatever, and they have all these people doing the same thing across the country. They're all doing basically the same thing, but the ads haven't been pre-approved by head office.
It gets messy.
It gets messy, old logo, wrong tone, wrong messaging, wrong images, incorrect grammar. So what our platform does is kind of gives that the franchisor, the head office, control to make sure here are the approved ads, and it makes it real easy for a franchisee to go, yeah, I want to run that ad, and I want to spend $20 a day, and I want to run it on Facebook, and I want to run Google. Go, and the franchisor can be rest assured that it's proper creative, right tone, right messaging, and the franchisee gets basically expert marketing at the local level that he or she doesn't have to go and hire someone to do in their local market.
Right. And that's, marketing is, and let's talk about just the term marketing itself, because for some reason, it's the first thing that some people can cut out of their budget when they're trying to cut. You don't become profitable by cutting, right? And I mean, it's if you have to cut marketing, then marketing is the last thing that you should cut. Why is it so important that there's constant? We could argue that the people's news feeds are so busy that you get lost in the mix, but you have to see that. And having just a Facebook page or a Facebook group just doesn't cut it. Now, why is it so important to have local marketing and social media campaigns and such?
Well, there's a number of reasons, and the whole shop local piece. Like, one of the big strengths of a franchise system is their local footprint, whether it's territories or whether it's brick and mortar. And that is probably their biggest strength. And when done right, the exposure they can get at the local level is off the charts, because their competitors are probably advertising, and there's not one silver bullet. So it's not just because you're on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or Google Ads. It's a combination of things. It's your storefront, and you can't just expect, and you see this, Steve, is you can't expect to you buy a franchise, you put the sign up, create the location, do the build out, open the doors, and it's crickets. Right? They think they buy because they bought a brand, people are going to be there. And of course, some people are going to show up, but you got to get the word out in your local neighborhood. And that whole shop local during COVID, because franchisees are usually locally owned and operated. They're part of the community. So, they've got to get that word out that we're here right in mall name, cross street, across from, Loblaws or whatever it is, and paint a picture in the minds of the potential customer to say, I know where that place is. So, and it's organic, and the stuff, like the little stuff, Steve, like if they sponsor a local hockey team or a local soccer team, you put that on your social media because it's community oriented. Or let's say you're involved in a local charity, SPCA, and you raise money every year at Christmas. Put a picture of that on your social media. It'll be way better than running an ad saying this week $9.99, because you're now showing you care and you're part of the community. So it's a combination of the good field stuff, which typically performs better organically, plus promotion, and that can be in a number of ways. So so that whole local footprint is a strength of franchise system that is often not realized. The shop local and making sure that people realize you're locally owned and operated.
Right. Oh, great point. And I think, when we talk about most brands, when they start, they certainly should, is cluster. You cluster around a province or around a couple of provinces or a geographic area. You don't want to go open one in Kelowna and one in St. John's, Newfoundland. That's not the way to start.
Travel.
Yeah. So I think that when you look at it and the power of word of mouth, sure, word of mouth, it helps, but it just doesn't cut it anymore. Because if you're developed in one province or one region and you go one or two provinces over, you don't have that brand value. And a lot of these younger brands, as they go, it's a tough pill to swallow to go, but you could have the best nachos or the best service or the best whatever, but out here it's crickets. Like you need that brand awareness. How important is that before a brand opens, that they know that and get that into their plan?
Well, the pre-marketing, that's a great question, Steve. For a lot of our brands, when done properly, pre-marketing. So let's say it's a, I don't know, dog daycare, for example. They have, founders offer where if you sign up in advance for that location and, their daycare, you get a special founders offer. But it also builds up awareness in advance of that store opening. And then once you're open, we're now open. But in advance, because people don't know the brand, you've got to make some noise. So the pre-marketing is probably one of the things that often is missed. And and the other piece is like QSRs. It's almost like the opposite. You don't want to start advertising the day you open. You want to have a soft launch because you're not ready with all the systems. Your staff aren't ready for the crowds to come flowing in. So like a restaurant is different because you want to make sure that you've got all your systems in place. They're used to the cafe, they're used to the process, the use of the cooking of the food, the wrapping of the sandwich and giving it to the customer. All those little things you want to have ironed out before you start advertising. So every business is a little bit different, but the local marketing, and if you're a new brand in that city that no one's ever heard of, you probably going to want to have some influencers or some testimonials or some, we're here from, PEI now opening in Calgary, famous, established in PEI in the over 20 years ago, now moving into Calgary, try us out. So you've got to take advantage of your past branding and then make sure that people know who you are, where you come from with your new location in a new territory. And the same thing for FranDev. So we're talking B2C right now, but for FranDev, that's a whole different ballgame. They've never heard of you, right? And you're coming into a new market, and you see this probably from many of your customers. We want to go to Alberta. No one knows them in Alberta. So you got to create brand awareness and then really explain the opportunity and how your QSR or your service-based business or your franchise is better than the competition. And here's why. So it takes time, and it takes time to nurture and gain the confidence of that market, whether it's on B2B or B2C, quite honestly. You got to gain confidence and trust in your brand, and that takes time.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and that's a great point. I think that when it kind of add to no one, for the most part, because I love the food or I love the service, that shouldn't be the driving force of why you buy the brand. And what we're seeing now is it's usually the third, fourth tier down. Is it a viable business? Do they have good systems and operations, good support, good marketing? Now, what is because as you know, selling lunch and selling a business is much different. But so what trends have you been seeing? And let's talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. And it's, of course, there's sometimes it's certain brands might have to learn the hard way. We all have in certain areas, but what are some trends that you're seeing that are working, and what are some that maybe aren't?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'll kind of back up a little bit because I think your question earlier, you're alluding to, how should they position themselves when doing FranDev, for example. So FranDev, and you made mention of it, we have the best pizza, we have the best product, the best service. Quite honestly, that's not going to sell franchises. So what we see in terms of the types of images and video that works best, and I'll talk about that before I see general trends. And as simple as it is, Steve, is a picture of a franchisee in front of their location with their family or staff, or it's a grand opening and they're cutting the ribbon, logos in the background. Those types of images work great when it comes to franchise development. And the picture of the pizza or the picture of the special, the plate or the souvlaki, or someone who's on a ladder cleaning windows or painting a house, those don't work. That's the product or service. You're trying to sell a bit of a dream. You want the potential franchisee to see themselves in that person's shoes. So, that could be a testimonial, a little video testimonial shot on your iPhone that said, I bought, one franchise 6 months ago. I'm now buying a second one. They are the best company, the greatest support. Or it could be, I used to live paycheck to paycheck. I'm now in charge of my own destiny. I have my family involved. It was the greatest change in my life. Like testimonials like that, written and on video, are really good to weave into FranDev campaigns and really help performance.
Well, right there shows you that shows all of our viewers the difference between a marketing firm and a franchise market. Because you're absolutely right. It when you can't argue with the data. It says, okay, here's the best leads are coming from this, or the best conversations, and it's we try to say that to our brands to get them when we're obviously partner with Reshift. Be prepared that your ads are not going to show someone in there flipping the burger or in there doing the service. That's not what we're trying to get across here. And thank you for that. It's
but I'll just add to the trends there, Steve, because part of your question was trends. So, that's not trends. I think that's just smart marketing in terms of the right images and videos. But in terms of trends and franchising in general, I would say franchising is hot right now. And whether it's Canada or the US, probably around the world, quite honestly, ever since COVID, it changed the world. And people are looking to be in charge of their own lives. And service-based businesses are hot. The ones that are brick and mortar are still very, very viable and hot as well. But in terms of service-based brands, those are really hot because the investment level is lower. You can work from home in a lot of cases, and it's probably not a 9 to 5 job. So we're seeing a lot of that is just in general. And if you look in Google Trends, so something, we're pretty close to this stuff, but in Google Trends, at the beginning of every year, you typically see a bit of a peak in, February, March, April, of people looking for buy a business, buy a franchise, work for myself, work from home. And all of the beginning of the year, you see a little bit of a peak because people are kind of making life-changing decisions after Christmas going into the new year, every year. But in the last couple of years, we're actually seeing it even more so. So search volume is up from Google in terms of people looking to buy franchises, own their own business, work from home. And that's probably why, service-based brands are doing well. But the trends ever since COVID has changed things, Steve. You see it yourself, right? Your whole business, you guys do a great job in, getting, leads in the door and making you vet them, and then you present them to the customer as qualified. But there's just a huge volume. And I think one of the things that I often see, and I think you have a question coming up about this, but mistakes people have made probably.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, well, that's one, right? Like, oh, they didn't call me back. Well, how many times did you call them? Twice. They didn't email me back. How many times did you email them? 3 times. Ooh. And they give up after a week. They give up after 2 weeks. Whereas some of those will convert months down the road, even like a year later, they convert, right? Because people's lives change, whether it's, they don't have the cash right now. They're interested. You're on their consideration list. And, they a year down the road, they maybe got, I don't know, some inheritance, or they found a partner. Maybe it's a business partner who's willing to put up half the funds, or maybe they got a buyout from work, or maybe they're forced out of work and now they have to do something. So people's lives change. And that lead that you gave up after a week or 2 or 3 converts months later.
I've had brands, I've had Canada, like after 2 years. And literally, we just had a new brand that came on. And what we always say to our brands is like, what do you have in your, there's 600 leads, 500 leads, 200 leads, whatever it may be. Okay, give them to us. We said, well, no, they haven't been. No, here we go. We just had one brand that come on. This year was 3 years old. Jenna got them converted, turned into a sale. So it kind of brings me into the next thing where, a lot of the times you might be talking to a brand. We work with a lot of brands together. Someone else, but and then we get on and say we're actually talking to Reshift. So talk about the partnership. Not that it's really confusing for the most part. What I always say is there's three really, really key components to franchise development. You have to have good leads. You do. That's a third of it.
Yeah.
Then you have to have a rock solid development process. And then once that rock solid development process is done and it's here, do you have a seamless all bats on deck to go and to get to that franchise awarding? So why, maybe talk in your words, the partnership with East Brands, FranCanada, and Reshift Media.
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve. So we don't do what you do, and you don't do what we do. So we generate the
That's
leads.
a shorter way to say it.
Yeah. We generate the leads.
Yeah.
Then it's over to you to go and contact the leads, vet the leads, and then the best ones are served up to your customer, the franchisor. And so your team are really good at understanding what the franchisor, the type of franchisee that they want, who their competitors are. And then once we have that information, our job is to go build a campaign, whether it's including Meta and Google and maybe other platforms, landing pages, but based on the knowledge we get from you, because you understand the customer really, really well, we go and build a campaign. We launch the campaign, we manage the campaign, and we tweak the campaign. So we don't set it and forget it. Like, we create a campaign, and if image number 5 isn't working, you know what? We're going to swap that guy out, and we're going to put another picture in or a video in, because we're all about constant improvement, because you need qualified leads and good leads, and then you need to run with them. So we kind of stop at that point. So we create the campaign, launch, manage, report on the campaign, and we have our new platform, Franify, that allows you or your customers to actually go in and 24/7 look at their stats and look at their leads, and every night at midnight it's updated. So you have up-to-date 24/7 access to all of your campaign stats. And then that's over to you. So then you guys run with the leads. So that's why it's such a great partnership. It's like the 1-2 punch. Like, you need someone to manage leads. And I find that often is an area that is overlooked, and a lot of franchisors go, I can do that. And those are the ones that give up after they don't respond after 1 or 2 emails. It's a week old, they haven't responded, they can't be interested anymore. But they're busy doing other things. So often these people within an organization, it's part of someone's job to do the Fran Dev, but not a full-time job. And even sometimes when it's a full-time job, they aren't following up to the extent they should. And that's where you guys are so great at it. You guys, you know their business, franchising. You yourself have been a franchisor, franchisee, business owner, and now and so your understanding of franchising in general is excellent, and the potential franchisee can learn a lot from you and your direction and your team. You've got a great team, a fantastic team, and so that's why it's such a great relationship. Is generate the leads, over you to manage them, serve up the best leads to the franchisor. That way they don't have to be dealing with the tire kickers and the ones who aren't ready to go now, but 6 months or a year down the road they may be. So it kind of takes that pain point from the franchisor, and then you're serving up qualified leads to them that you've spoken to.
We don't want to present anyone until they're fully qualified operationally, financially. And what we say, like, for full disclosure, I mean, we don't convince, I mean, with our value, what we do, it's certainly a great value. And that was the whole fundamentals behind the company. But if someone says, no, I just need leads, Steve, well, call Reshift. That's certainly what we do. But no, it's a great, because as we go forward, we're working with some great brands together. There's many more coming on. But no, it's great to hear your words from that. I think as we both grow our companies and go into uncharted waters, I guess we'd say, we have a lot of fun too.
We do, and it's I think it's such a a great relationship, and we chat. I don't know how many times a week,
Yeah,
but what time of
you're an
day.
early riser too. You're an early.
Yeah,
So
well, not as early as you.
well, Brad is. Brad that works with us. He's early. We'll be strategizing at 10 to 6.
Yeah.
But no, come back. I want to come back to a point that and reinforce one thing that you did say this year, during the Christmas holidays. Oh man, we were bombarded, and it's showing you. You're right. That corporate Canada, corporate America, being in the kind of in the driver's seat of their destiny. It's showing you that people are out there they're looking to do that, and with a franchisor out there that whether you're working with us in Reshift or not, to assume that they're not looking at 10 other brands, you actually want them to, right? And to know that the importance of following those 3 development processes. Well, it's if you don't get back to them within 4 hours, there's a 78% likelihood that they're not going to go. Think about that, right? And Kirk, just as we're talking, man, just as we're talking, I do it sometimes just to see how brand to get back to me. I emailed a brand about opening in Stratford, Prince Edward Island, here in my hometown. 5 weeks. They just go back to me. Said, "Yeah, feel free to give us a call." And I forgot that I did that, right? So it's, but not to try to pick on everyone, but that's certainly something that we want people to get educated from this, whether they work with us or not. So with with franchising in Canada and franchising in the US, a little bit different. Well, sorry, it's quite a bit different. It's we work with some brands that we don't work with them in the US. We work with some brands where we work in both, and it is quite different. The strategy that you have in the US being so noisy, noisy. Whatever your budget is in Canada, there's 10 times the population down there. To get the same results, do you say times that by 10?
Well, it depends on the market. So it depends if it's a mature brand or a emerging brand. So the emerging brands, we actually have to pull back the reins a little bit and say, guys, if you only have X budget, now we'll recommend more budget, but if they only have, let's say, I don't know, $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month, well, that's going to limit you to certain states and certain cities within those states. So, well, we want to be everywhere. Well, you're going to dilute your dollars too much if you go everywhere. Can we do it? Yes. Will it be effective? No. So we advise them to what are your top markets where you really want to be, and then we have to look at things like competition, and but we're really big on focusing on city level and not statewide. So you're kind of you want to get the best out of the budget. You don't want to waste the ad dollars and spraying like a shotgun approach. We like the rifle and make sure it's very targeted to a particular city. So that we're big fans of that. And if they're a mature brand, well, then you've only got a few holes in the US. Let's just go focus on those. And depending, because often they are restricted by budget, right, Steve? So, depending on the budget, will that allow them to do, Meta and Google and maybe something like a LinkedIn. And we're even experimenting now with Pinterest in some cases, or Pinterest and also TikTok. So TikTok for some brands is actually pretty cool. So there's different, and AI comes into play nowadays. So I would say, in the US, absolutely bigger market, bigger budgets. But if they have a limited budget, then we have to pull the reins in and say, hang on, guys, with that kind of budget, we're only going to be able to do, half a dozen cities. Right. And not all of the US or all of a state. And that's one of the big mistakes is doing the whole state where, well, there's pockets and corners of that state that make no sense. So why put an advertising message into the area where there's just not enough population and your system doesn't make sense? Right. So I would say that's one of the big things. It's applicable to Canada too. Is you have less population, but you want to make sure that you don't spread yourself too thin in Canada as well.
Right. And we've seen that firsthand. And with growing like we have in the last 3 years, you learn a lot about we don't like to use the word convince. Educates, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I like that word, Steve.
Yeah,
educate.
what it comes down to is, a lot of the times what I say, it's not my opinion. I mean, opinions are usually subjective, but here's what the data shows. And, some brands that want to grow 1 unit per quarter, great. If they want to grow 1 per month, great. Do you have the operational capacity to handle that growth? But also, you got to look at it. It costs money to hit that franchise development market. So if you have a newer brand that's coming through,
Yeah.
and they're coming in and they want to grow their franchise brand organically. How realistic is that, Kirk? In what you see, without being completely harsh, what
You have to spend money. Like there's no way around it. Even the mature brands, Steve, spend money on a monthly basis. And if you're an emerging brand, well, maybe you're not in market 12 months of the year. So maybe you kind of hit the peaks, right? So we will manage a budget and go, okay, guys, you know what? Let's just be in market February, March, April, and then October, November. So we're in market 5 of the year, if they have a limited budget. But organically, you have to do that too. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with organic, and you want to get your team talking about it. You maybe have a LinkedIn company page, and then critical to get your staff involved and talking about it themselves on their own personal profiles. But that's not going to cut it. Like, it's just not. Like, and if it does, it's very, very, very unusual. So I would say you're not going to grow very much just organically. And why wouldn't you invest? Like, it's going to move so much quicker. And if they have a limited budget, we can work around that too, right? You and I know that both.
Well, I think that, and I like to say this line, and some people are receptive to it. How can you expect someone to invest into your company when you won't even do it yourself? And
right.
So
that's a good point, Steve.
Right, but to look at it, and sometimes the I don't want to say the blinders. There's 7,000 brands now in North America. 7,000. 95% don't make it to 10. You just do the math, and if you pull back, some get lucky, I guess. But part of what I like about Reshift, and what I've always had the values with East Brands and FranCanada, is, again, educate the process so you know what you're getting into. And a couple of things is, I've seen over the years when someone will talk cost per lead, and cost per lead is one way to measure. But if someone has 986 leads and they brag, I've got 986 leads in my pipe, but you haven't closed one deal, something's up.
Something's wrong.
Right. In looking at it and pulling back and go, why is that?
Yeah.
It's not hard to get. You get a bum phone number, a bum email, whatever it may be. But if you're calling up your leads and they're like, who are you? I didn't know anything about that, or whatever it may be. So it's anyway, what's your thoughts on
that's
that?
a lot of leads to get none closed. Like there must be some close to the finish line, or with that's kind of unheard of. They must have, I don't know where they got those leads from, but 900 some odd leads, they don't close one.
Well, I mean, it shows you the nurture properly. I think one of the ones where Jenna, there was hundreds anyway that were brought out of the pipe. But so if you were talking to kind of a closing note, Kirk, if someone was interested in learning about proper lead generation, and this is, don't take East Brands into it or FranCanada, this is Reshift Media.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to learn about your services or learn about what you offer, what would you say to them?
You operate very similar to the way we operate, Steve. We love talking about this business. You and I are very passionate about this business. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with emerging brands, and they just want to bend your ear. Like, I am open all day long. Well, maybe not all day long, but when I have an opening, I love talking about this business. So I'm very passionate about it, as you are. And if it turns into a customer, great. But similar to you, we like to educate people. And, many people have seen us present over the years at different conventions, whether it's the Retail Council of Canada or the Canadian Franchise Association, or, next week we're down, or a couple of weeks from now, we're down in Fort Worth talking about franchise development and the IFA. We don't push and sell ourselves. We're not hard sell. We are all about education like you. And so we like to educate, have a good, solid conversation. And typically, that can lead to business down the road. And if it doesn't, that's fine. But a good conversation, I find like every day I learn something, every day. And it's just been the way I view life and have since I was a kid. And it comes from my parents. And I just love to talk about this business and love to talk to new people and love to help them, guide them in any which way I can. And I know you do the same. So happy to hop on a call anytime with anyone, any time of day. I don't know. You and I have talked at 5 in the morning,
Oh
7 in the
shit, we should be on
morning,
the couples plan. Huh?
and at 9 at night. But it's
Yeah.
because we love the business, and we're here to help people. And if we do business, great. But educate and help people grow. And I've always been a big supporter of helping people along the way, especially the emerging brands. And because there are some pitfalls, and there's some starts, and people learn from their mistakes, but try to avoid some of the mistakes can help. So that's why I'm always open to having a chat.
Right. And that's good. It's good because and you're right. We do have very similar values. If I'm talking to a brand and they say, well, I'm talking to a couple other brands, like something like we do, I say, Christ, I hope so. Right. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
of course,
Yep,
go nuts, man. Like, I mean,
yep.
you should, because at the end of the day, it's and then you say, to be honest, we're talking to your competition too, right? So it's making sure that it's a right fit. And because franchising, as it goes, it's when you get to 10 units, you're a different business than when you're at 0. And then when you get to 25, and then you get to 25 to 50, and hopefully you're not going back and cleaning up all the mess.
Well, often that happens.
Oh,
Often
Jesus, it
you're
ever.
too quick to say yes, and then you realize they're not a fit. The culture or the dedication, and they
Well,
don't.
yeah, and you look at it, what we say, with franchise. And look, I was one of them. Whenever you getting a franchise fee, you're like, oh, you made a little bit of money off that. Franchise fees are to pay for your marketing, your legal, your brokering, your training, that kind of stuff, and they're usually a wash, really. And even defining when you're setting up your franchise system, what is your franchise fee? What does that include? But I think that with companies like Reshift, and well, and ours for that matter, it's not just, okay, let's do a service. Let's find out about your brand and what your goals are, and
Yeah,
then see if we can help that, right? And it's like everything. Probably you could say the same. We're not for every brand, and every brand's not for us.
yeah.
And
Fair comment.
probably, yeah, but well, look, bud, I think it's been wonderful having you on, and I have another podcast right after, so I was going to wear my franchising's the shift shirt,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
that's the one I have on today, right?
that was the hottest shirt. Christ sakes, is like the Gucci of franchising, huh? Yeah.
That was we gave away
Is
350 or
that what it
something.
was?
350. And I've got a couple like smalls left, and I don't have many left, but if anyone wants one and they fit one of the sizes we have left over, it's a collector's item. And
Oh, and listen, it's a
yeah,
comfortable shirt, man.
yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
yeah. It says Reshift Media, very small and subtle on the back, but this was the message. It was the Canadian Franchise Annual Conference, and we wanted to you know talk about franchising and not about Reshift.
Right.
So yeah, it was fun to give those away.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's good. Well, listen, Kirk, we're gonna have you back. We're gonna have to have Boers on sometime.
Yeah, yeah, we got to get Stevie on for sure,
Yeah.
and he'll have all sorts of stories, and
I always tease
be
Steve,
great to interview as well.
you're sponsored by the last jar of Brill cream out there. Yeah, don't tell him I said that.
I put a little hairspray. I got my hair cut last weekend because I'm going down to that show in Fort Worth, Franchise Assembly, and so yeah, I had to cut it, and so this morning I had to put a little spray on to keep it in place and look good for your podcast.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, it's great, man. Well, listen, that's wonderful, Kirk. Thanks so much, and we'll have a link to your company below, and look forward to having you back.
Let's go. Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. You guys do a great job. We love working with you guys and the new brand, FranCanada, and East Brands do a great job. So thank you for having us. Hi, everyone.
Cheers.
My name is Kirk Allen. I am the co-founder and CEO of Reshift Media. We've been working with Steve and East Brands and FranCanada for a number of years. I invite you to join us on their upcoming podcast and look forward to having you there.
Thank you for joining us on the FranCanada Podcast, where we speak all things franchising in Canada. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share below. You can also visit our website, our Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, Instagram, and please add me on LinkedIn, Steve Collette.